Howdy. This is it turns out, not quite 100th episode of Connect This. So Rye had the brilliant idea. Rye, the producer and the person who does most of the thinking about this show, wrote to me and he was like, hey, Chris, you haven't actually planned out what we're really going to be doing. And rather than doing a not great 100th episode, out of respect for all the time people have put into this wonderful show and the love that our fan has for it, we've decided that this is not the 100th episode. We are going to have the 100th episode in the next one, we think. So this is going to be maybe a secret unnumbered show. And if anyone has a problem with that, come at me, bro. So if you tuned in, we're going to have a pretty normal show, which for us is not at all normal. So I think it's going to be great. We got Sean here. I'll introduce him last. But we have me. I'm Christopher Mitchell at the Institute for Local Self-Reliance. I'm in St. Paul. This morning, it was like 84 degrees and humid at 4 a.m. in San Antonio. And I do not like it. The tacos are great. The people are great. Went down to the Rio Grande Valley. It was amazing. Not really a valley, but still really cool. And it was really hot, I guess I should say, in both senses. But I'm glad to be home where the temps are reasonable. We got Travis Carter from USI Fiber. Welcome back, Travis.
Hello, my friend. Welcome home. I'd like to congratulate you on your stock going up almost 350% in the last month. Ever since you signed up. Good for you.
Yeah, so actually it turns out that the amount that I said I had before, now I have more, because that's the way it works, apparently. So thank you, Lumen.
You little financial mogul, you. So yes.
I bought it when it was low because I said crony capitalism is a thing in America, and they're gonna find some way of making money, probably from the government, and it's gonna pop. So Doug Dawson, welcome back.
I'm a little disappointed. I dressed for the 100th show here, so yeah. Let's not even talk about Kim here. She's heartbroken. So
yeah,
I'm really kind of heartbroken.
I am not a good host. Let there be no doubt about that. There's a few things that I do well, and I think being fair and nice to the people who freely labor to make this worth watching is not one of those things, apparently. So Kim is joining us with celebration style.
Okay, let's just talk about this. I have balloons behind me. They say 100, but they're kind of sideways. I've got my Reuben mug.
The Reuben mug is amazing.
Have a special straw. I have big sunglasses and a sparkly shirt. And this is not the 100th show. Thank you, Rye. Thank you. Now, moving on.
Kim is with Utopia Fiber and Doug is with CCG, and you should know that because y'all been watching this for a while because the show's amazing. And then we got Sean, who's been on here occasionally, Sean Gonsalves with us at the Institute for Local Self-Reliance, who's coming to us from Cape Cod. Welcome.
All right. Welcome home, Chris. I was going to congratulate you on 100 episodes without being canceled. Also thought it was appropriate that Fort Collins is celebrating their 20,000th subscriber. So I thought that was cool. It coincided, but it turns out I guess it didn't. So I'll save the congratulations for later.
I appreciate that. And also, since you went to San Antonio and set the high bar, we've been doing some work with folks down in San Antonio and educating nonprofits that are focused on serving populations that have been really left behind, a lot of low-income families. Sean went down and did a killer prepresentation 4 weeks ago. Jordan and I just went down there. And
high bar. I thought you meant the high bar and how many tacos I could eat in 2 days.
No, we split our time between tacos and barbecue because there's some good barbecue between San Antonio and Brownsville. So had a good time. We're actually in West Laco and got to see a little bit more of the country. It was a good time, especially with Jordan. Jordan is a great travel guy. So anyway, we have you on to talk about Brownsville, which is, I was down there and I was talking to people over local tacos at this amazing taqueria. And I was like, so let's talk about Brownsville. And they're like, no, it's Brownsville. So tell us about Brownsville and the partnership.
I get to pretend like I'm Gen Z right now. As the kids say, Brownsville is lit. So after being
Wow.
on,
Wow, Sean. That's just
Hey.
a wow.
hey, I'm cool. What can I say? Okay. So of course, Bronzeville. Am I pronouncing it right? Brownsville.
Close. You gotta say a little
Okay.
faster, but yeah, you're good.
All right. They were on NDIA's list of worst connected cities from like 2014 to 2019, and they got tired of that, despite the presence of AT&T and Charter Spectrum, and I think T-Mobile is there also. In 2022, the city decided to put out an RFP looking for a partner to build and operate an open access middle mile backbone for the city, and also build out a last mile network. So they've done that. Although in the process, Charter, of course, launched this ad campaign, doing the usual, it's a waste of taxpayer dollars argument and how they serve the city so well. But it turned out the ads didn't really match reality. And so they fell flat. And it was, to me, was kind of interesting about what the mayor the mayor, I think, John Cohen, and the city council did, is they kind of called Charter's bluff. So by putting out this RFP, which of course Charter didn't respond to, and so it gave them the political cover to move forward. And Lit Fiber won the bid, and they're going to be operating under the brand Lit Fiber BTX. The city used $20 million of its rescue plan dollars to fund the construction of the fiber ring. It's 100 miles that they deployed, and then Lit Fiber.
There's a story there too. So I'll interrupt you for a second to just say that prior to the current mayor, Mayor Trey Mendez, I think was his name. He was part of a coalition. We've talked about this briefly before. When the rescue plan rules came out, they were not great. The rescue plan threw a bunch of money out there, and then the Treasury Department had to write rules on how cities could spend it if they wanted to do broadband stuff. And those rules were pretty crummy. And Mayor Mendez was, I think everyone calls him Trey. He was really instrumental in speaking about why this was really terrible from an equity point of view, and helped to reverse that. So the White House changed its mind, and so many cities then were able to make investments to try to reach places. So like you said, for people who didn't track it entirely, so they use their money to build this ring, to build like fiber down major corridors, and then Lit Fiber leases that, and also does some other stuff that you're about to describe.
Right. Because so part of that agreement was that Lit Fiber would turn over ownership to the city, and then invest $70 million in building out the last mile network for the city. So they're in phase 1 right now. That will, when they're done, will pass 10,000 locations. I know there's about 50,000 locations in the city, which they expect to build out totally by the end of 2025, beginning of 2026. And so last week they lit up their first subscriber, and it's pretty cool because I haven't been in person, but I've seen a lot of pictures and just talking to the folks that are over there at Lit Fiber. So the city and Lit Fiber set up this, what they call this experience center downtown, where they did the ribbon cutting. The mayor was there. They got this huge turnout. And it's like this experience center that, so people can like sort of see and experience what will be coming, and what it will be like to have that kind of connectivity. But here's the thing that's making me think about moving to Brownsville. I have to figure out how to pronounce it better first. The service tiers. They've got 4. They've got the 100 meg level, $35 a month, $350 a month, 500 megs, $60 a month, and then you get the symmetrical gig for $70 a month. But they also have a low cost option for $15 a month. I'm not sure what the speeds you get. I'm assuming it's probably around 50. I don't remember what they told me, but the low cost option is $15 a month, and they're basically using the ACP guidelines to determine, eligibility for households there. So
great reporting, Sean. Love I don't remember what they told me.
Right? That's what notebooks are for.
That's my kind of reporting, Sean. That's my kind of reporting. Maybe this is what happened.
They call me Scoop Gonzalez for a reason.
Any questions or commentary for Sean?
How come 2025 to build the whole thing? How much is built already?
They said they've just released 3 areas, and they were basically, I asked them, how they decided where they were going to serve first, and they said it was really about where the ring had already been lit. And so they're in the early phases of.
So they're just getting started. Okay.
They're just getting started, essentially. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think they've been building the ring for a bit, and then
Oh yeah. The ring is just about is in their words substantially completed. I think it's almost done. It was interesting when I was talking to them a little bit about some of the challenges they had. It's something that reminded me of listening to Chris present a lot and talking about the importance of doing the underground locates with the utilities. Apparently there were some issues with the record keeping there, and it was very difficult. And I think they had some issues on that front, but they're basically past that now, and the ring is all but built.
Are they going to bury the whole thing?
So the ring is all underground, and they said they'd like to get on utility poles because they could move much quicker and cover a lot of ground quicker. But I think they're having some permitting issues on that front, but it's going to be a combo, aerial and underground.
Because they
gotta go underground. You never know. You never know what Elon's going to drop out of the sky at any moment. So
right, because speaking of Elon, I mean, part of the excitement there is I think there's this energy that the city is kind of on the come up in the sense that they've got this big revitalization project going on, with like downtown revitalization, sidewalks. They're building this fiber network, and then SpaceX, of course, is located there. So,
yeah, and then obviously right nearby, which Jordan and I were so excited. We looked up and saw a sign for FAR, and we're like, we're in FAR. So we got to FAR and saw, just a little bit there where they're building their network. A bunch of counties around there are doing some cool stuff. I'm about to learn more about that in the next few days. So there's a lot of cool stuff that's happening down by the border. Doug, I think you were asking a question though.
No.
Well, I was going to say one thing that occurred to me is this is yet another city or community that's using their rescue plan dollars, I think wisely, on broadband projects. But it occurred to me that the rules on that money has to be spent and be out the door by like the end of 2025 or 2026. So like time is running out on and if you don't spend it by that time or have commit to spending it, I should say, that money has to go back. So I think they're going to get it done. The shot clock. I don't mean Brownsville. I'm just saying in a number of communities that are still kind of sitting on some of that money. The shot clock is running.
Travis,
are they using some of their BEAD dollars for this as well?
No, Travis. It's shocking, but the BEAD dollars haven't resulted in any connections yet.
Oh, are we still at zero? Okay, so. So the 100th episode of, the 99.5 episode, we still have 0 people connected with the once-in-a-lifetime infrastructure plan.
I didn't put it in the rundown, but Montana just announced that they are taking the proposals. So they are the first there. I would expect that a few others will be doing it soon. But I think we're still largely in agreement that if there's any money that goes out the door at the end of 2025, it will be quite surprising.
Yeah, I'd be willing to take a bet that a year from now there will still be 0 actually constructed. So.
Ooh, do we have some chicken wing bet, Doug? I'm thinking. Yeah. I think I'm 6 for 0 against Mitchell. So what do you think I should do?
And then regarding Ruben's question, the rules for all of the what do we call SLRFRF, which is the state and local fiscal recovery funds, which was $350 billion, went out to local governments, states, territories, all kinds of folks. They all have to figure out what they're going to do with the money and publicly commit to it by 2026, and the money has to be fully spent by 2028. I think was the rule.
And then there's the CPF funds that went right to the states, which a lot of states are using for, obviously, for broadband projects. A couple of states are using it specifically for municipal broadband projects. But as it relates to Travis's point, in fairness, yes, we haven't had a single BEAD dollar or project, and no one's been connected by BEAD yet. But let's not act like BEAD is everything. I mean, there was quite a bit of money in rescue plan funds that could be used, and a lot's being done with that money. So it's not like the federal government funding stream has been.
Yeah, take that.
Okay, so first of all, stop using logic, Sean, on this podcast, because that's not what we do here.
All right.
I've added up all the funding, and I come up with $97 billion between all the sources. That doesn't include county and city grants. So,
All right, Doug, can you make sure you're speaking up, or maybe jack that mic up a little bit as we're going? Just lean into it and make sure the beard isn't catching your words. Sean, I think we're going to release you.
Oh, all right, catch and release, nice.
Thanks,
All right,
Sean.
so thank
you,
you for taking a break. Sean's like, if there's one thing I want from you, Chris, it's these long times to like do serious work without interruption. To which today I was like, yeah, but could you come on the show anyway? So, thank you. All right, we got Alexis joining us now. Alexis has been on the show before and is back by popular demand. Her popular demand that she come back on the show.
I don't think that's how this went at all, actually.
No. Alexis was getting in touch with me today about other things, and I was like, "You should come on the show. Come on the show. It'd be great."
I think that I don't have beautiful balloons. Those are gorgeous, stunning balloons, and I love the sequins. I don't have anything ready for the 100th episode other than my desk crab, who.
Don't worry. You need to write that out and just put 99 point. Oh, you did 99.5. Like we can't even.
Okay. Yeah. So anyway, congratulations on 99.5 episodes, friends.
It's exciting, and we have a bunch of fun stuff. And so, Alexis, is there anything you want to introduce? Any quick topics that are on the front of your mind? They're from Chicago, where you're doing cool mapping and research type stuff, among other things.
You know, Kim and I were just at Mountain Connect, and it seems like the It Girls last year. The It Girls were broadband labels. So hot right now. It feels like the It Girls right now are RDOF defaults. People are extremely concerned by RDOF defaults. Very hot topic. Also, the FCC quietly launched a mobile speed test app. And the quiet launch of this, it doesn't appear to be open source. It seems that it's a company from outside the United States. I'm not sure that there was an RFP. A bunch of different folks are looking into it, including Sasha Meinrath and Michael Wasser from Exactly Labs. But yeah, this quiet launch of a mobile testing app from FCC, not really too hyped. That's another one that's sneaking underneath headlines that I think is worth investigating. And I'm curious if those might be fun topics to talk about today.
I cannot imagine a situation where the FCC just going off and doing an ill-conceived, quick, non-public contract with some other entity for data around internet access could ever go wrong. Travis, do you remember how much we spent on the maps?
It wasn't enough. That's all I remember.
It was something like they needed like 100 billion to make those maps work, right?
It was almost insulting how little we spent on the map. So
Yes. Yeah, we start off at 50 million, and then I feel like all the other money that's going to CostQuest is like unquantifiable because of the way it was structured. Doug?
Yeah, they got to be way over the hundreds of millions by now because they charge everybody a big license fee to use it. So
not everyone, but certainly a lot of
people.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. So we were going to talk about Mountain Connect, and the RDOF defaults is something that Rye just flagged for me that we should be looking into to a greater extent. And so I fired off an email to someone that I often ask for secret advice that I can then claim to be my own knowledge. And I haven't heard back yet, so I was going to save that for the next show. But at Mountain Connect, which I didn't make it this year. I was really sad not to make it, but I got my shirt from 10 years ago, which is a wonderful event in Denver now, and looking forward to it next year. SpaceX was there, and boy, were they there, apparently. I really enjoyed, there's an article from Fierce in which it starts off, the normally reserved Gary Bolton, CEO of the Fiber Broadband Association, kicked off the panel by slamming SpaceX's Starlink regarding their seeking BEAD funds. And I just want to say, like, kudos to Jeff and Doug for another great, interesting panel. Like, like that. I wish I was there in the room. It sounded like it was really cool. Was anyone in the room? Was it that good? Wasn't that good? You weren't there, Kim?
I wasn't in the room. I actually had to work at that panel time, but I did hear everybody talking about it right afterwards. And I heard it was a very feisty panel and a lot of different opinions up there. And I mean, this is going to be my opinion, but kudos to Gary Bolton for saying that, because I think he's absolutely right for what he was saying.
Yeah, Alexis, were you there?
I wasn't. I was in a competing panel. That's the drag about these things, is like you never get on your conference schedule, you never get like the, I love this field because we do get in good arguments. And I think that it's one of the reasons that we're all drawn to it, and having these debates in public are very important, in particular, just because like individuals like us do have an impact on policy. Unfortunately, I did miss it, but like Kim, I heard about it later too. Yeah.
Well, I mean, this goes back to something that really upset me, and I feel like I've taken a weird position for the first time ever in anything. And if you go back to the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund, right, there's this idea we're going to have a reverse auction, and then we're going to have this money, and then the money will be given to ISPs who will build out the network to connect homes. And then they sort of threw in SpaceX, and they're like, also SpaceX will get money for, not connecting specific locations or anything, but just in general for doing their thing. And it struck me as odd. And now we're in a similar situation with BEAD, where you have some homes will be getting money to have a good quality connection to their home, and others will apparently be sort of lumped in with areas in which SpaceX would get money for those locations, even though SpaceX wouldn't even necessarily be serving them or be able to, and then those families wouldn't benefit in any way. It's preposterous to me. If you want to give money to SpaceX, figure out a program to give money to SpaceX, but don't just throw it into a different program. I can't imagine how it would work. Doug?
Well, let's go back to the RDOF. Their proposal was to get $1 billion. They weren't even going to give people the receivers for free. They were going to put no money into it. They were just going to pocket it. And everybody they can already see. I mean, it didn't get them any new locations. And that's what they're going to do for BEAD. They're going to say, people are already estimating that they might get $1 billion out of BEAD, and they're not going to spend a penny of that on a consumer. They're not going to give you a cheaper rate. They're not going to give you a faster speed, and they're not even going to give you your set for free, probably. Now, if they start giving the $500 sets out, receivers, okay, I could see where that might be a help, right?
We could have an argument then. Anyone else on this?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they be eligible? They're actually hooking people up.
Right. No, they don't need a grant to hook them up, though. They're already hooking them up.
Exactly. And on top of that, so
you can argue why do some of these other big incumbents need it?
So the grant is tied to a specific location which will be served and have a connection to it. And so and then you're just going to throw money at SpaceX, and now there is no money to connect that home, even with a higher quality terrestrial wireless service. So it's like I'm saying, it's not the way the program is designed. You end up screwing over those households who will never have a terrestrial service, and they'll just be at the whims of whatever Elon does in the future, which I don't know if you noticed, but the man is a little bit unpredictable.
Yeah, he's hooked 3 million people up, and BEAD has hooked up 0. So I'll give kudos to Elon. I'd rather give Elon the money than a bunch of other incumbents that are going to blow it all away. You understand most of this money is just going to go away anyways.
Well, we'll see. I mean, I feel like we made a lot of different predictions. Some of them have come out, and some of them haven't.
I'll take Elon, and I guess 1, 2, 3, 4 people take, I don't know, whatever you guys take, the incumbent in the area.
I just don't know why we would be giving Elon money. I mean, it's like, if you want to subsidize Elon because you think he's doing a good job, that's fine. But don't take that away from a family that needs a terrestrial connection. So you end up with this is the same thing with RDOF, where you have homes and they've done nothing wrong. They're just, by the happenstance of other people making decisions, they're basically decided that they will never have a terrestrial connection to their home.
Do they, hold on, who said what type of, they just need a connection, right? You're saying they need a terrestrial connection.
Well, they need okay, let's go back for a second now. We've decided that the terrestrial connections are higher quality and meet. There's a whole bunch of things they went through to define what a good connection was. Alexis probably remembers better than me what they are. But on top of this, I'm really fascinated to see Elon having to do all of the labor stuff and everything else. I can't imagine he's actually even going to agree to most of the conditions within BEAD. So probably this is an irrelevant conversation.
Well, somebody has to argue with you, Chris.
Alexis, would you like to argue with me?
I mean, what's interesting to me about this argument is how project areas are being defined and how different states have different rules. And we're setting up a natural experiment to see what those leftover BSLs are going to be and what's going to happen to them due to the fact that there's no uniformity on how these look in different states. So think about the downstream effects of all of that too, with these incredibly short shot clocks. I am nothing but question marks, and I think wincing a little bit to see which comes out on top. I think, speaking back to your Texas example, I was down in that area for my dissertation research. And at the time, SpaceX was not there. And those folks, it's miles and miles and miles and miles, but mountains and topography, and there's all kinds of various terrain. And those folks have been, kind of teased by the federal government putting up infrastructure and them not having access to it. It's communication infrastructure for the border. So, those fringe areas, the temperature is turning up, and people come to me to ask me what my future predictions are, and I don't have a good answer for them because of the inconsistency and non-uniformity in how these natural experiments will play out. I do know that we need to keep talking about it.
Let's zoom in on that for a second, right? So we haven't really dug in on this, but the broadband serviceable locations, BSLs, the areas that are starting at the household, you have households that are eligible for money, right? And then the states and the federal government don't want ISPs to be bidding on individual homes. So they're aggregating them into some larger shape to fit together. And if you bid on one of those, then you have to connect all the eligible locations within it. Texas just put forward an RFI basically saying, what if we went at like the county level or something like that, which Virginia's been doing more or less with their past funding programs, trying to make sure that they put money into an area, everyone in the county would be connected. But there's two main camps, right? One is these larger, I think, natural shapes, and the other is hexagons, right? So
some are also socially constructed geographies like census blocks. I sat in on all of the states, every single state update at Mountain Connect, and we've got 4 state broadband directors sitting side by side, and they're talking about different project areas. And in the Midwest alone, each state has a different approach.
Right, and we've talked about how
none of these work, because when you go and lay hexes down, you're like, that's a very fine hex, but that doesn't cover any of the roads it takes to actually get to where these people live. So
right, and you have like some of the hexes are half on tribal or half on specifically reservation land and a half not, and you have all kinds of weird things that result in this. Kim, you're leaning forward.
Yeah, we just have to stop with this universal approach. It doesn't work everywhere. Nothing works the same in every state, and we keep trying to force this like rectangle in this circle and say it's gonna fit, and you're like, can we just stop this BS and just hand, like a different approach?
We're running 50 different experiments. Maybe we'll find the one that works, even though Alexis thinks we're not.
Well, you're too positive. You're too positive, Chris. What's wrong with you today?
They're all at the same time though, because if one works, that means 49 failed.
The thing is like how in the field of research in this space, the question that we always ask ourselves is, how do we avoid the insanity cycle of big funding, no follow through? How do we follow this as a natural experiment and make sure that we don't avoid this again? And it seems as if now that we are halfway through this, seeing how, behind the curtain and having some conversations about how the sausage are made, it really feels like this is all going to, once again, be another cycle where we don't actually capture, that winner there. And also, Kim, to your point about this non-universal approach, one of the things that I wanted to ask about, and I didn't realize that you needed to put your questions in the app instead of actually just asking out loud, but I wanted to understand how rural areas are, these are long-standing agreements sometimes between cooperatives that have carved out their territories. How is there going to be some type of, are we going to bring everybody to the table and have these discussions like it's carving up fiefdoms? Are we playing Settlers of Catan? When it comes down to those final decision-making points in our most rural and remote areas, what's that going to look like?
Yeah, I want to address the idea of county levels. States that are stupid enough to do that are going to end up with half of their state counties where nobody asked for the money. People are going to look at that map and go, nobody can do that. I'm just not going to ask for it. Those states are going to have a big panic attack when nobody asks for it. So, and that'll all go to Elon then. So, I personally believe Elon will get $1 billion out of this. So, yeah.
Get $1 billion?
Do you really?
That's my bet. Yes, it is.
How do you think he's going to get $1 billion when they're like a lot of people don't want him? Do you just think that everybody's just going to be like, well, he's the only option, so we're going to award it to Elon?
Now, when a state finds that nobody's asking for areas, here's one of the biggest problems with BEAD. A state has to award every single BSL before any of the grants start. So if they get 90% awarded, they're going to be in a panic to award the last 10% because the other grants are not awarded yet. They just sit there. And so they never, ever build if they never make 100%. And so they're going to give that last 10% to Elon. You watch.
Well,
that's my prediction because I've read most of the state rules, and a lot of those guys are setting themselves up for failure.
Some of the states are indeed having a point-based system where you can negotiate for if you take the undesirable BSLs or the high-cost BSLs, then you get first option to bid out on other areas. But another thing that I'm seeing, and I keep asking this question over and over again, is there seems to be a cascade where you have to do a whole bunch of stuff and then you figure out your ultra high cost area and what that ultra high cost number is. Right. So we're building equations without knowing what the other variables are, which seems to me like carts before the horse were inside out and the rocket's launching. It's like the Cybertruck leaks. Like, what can we say? I don't know.
And the 365-day clock is ticking, and that's bad. So, yeah.
I mean, I would go back to something that John Chambers had suggested before, which is an approach that I think has a lot of merit, which would be a public database of the estimated costs to connect each location, right? This is what CostQuest got famous for, was developing these models. Or not famous, but gotten, well known for and has contracted with the FCC for on many years, is its proprietary estimates of how much it costs to connect locations. And I would have liked to have seen a situation in which we said, all right, every location that costs less than $25,000, we're going to figure out how to get them connected with this money, or pick some threshold like that and do the vast majority of people with a program that would work and then start worrying about the rest. Maybe you end up, working out a deal with Elon to subsidize those to some extent. And in 4 or 5 years, you come back to it and you look at it again and you try to figure out like what's available now to try and bring that. I mean, if you're talking about homes that cost more than $25,000 to connect, first of all, fair amount of those are probably second homes to people or third homes to rich people. So who cares? And then for the homes that we actually care about, it's well less than 1% of the population. So we can just focus on that at that point. Travis?
We don't care about some homes. We care about others. We
don't care about the third home.
We're going to put this down now. Chris and IOSR don't care about everybody. That's just what we heard here.
Alexis, what were you saying to make fun of me? I want to make sure I got all of it.
He's not going to make it to 100 now. He's going to get canceled.
I love it.
I'm retiring.
Let's bring Sean back on. Let's bring Sean back on. We need him.
I forgot about this. I actually, this is my swan song. Lumen's going up. I'm going out. Alexis?
Oh no, I joked that aren't you building a second house right now?
My dream was to actually, when we demoed the garage, was to build one of the what do they call it? The like apartments in which I charge people money to live in a very small room, and that turns out to be prohibitively expensive to do water.
Oh.
So. All right.
But I actually agree with you, Chris. I think that BEAD should have had a goal of 95% or something, but that would have been a lot more sensible. So,
yeah, Doug, keep shouting into the mic, especially when you're agreeing with me.
right.
We want to talk about 5G versus 4G quick. I don't want to go too long on this, but Doug had a post, and it just so happens that as I've been playing Pokemon Go, whether it's in San Francisco or in Northern California, up in the Redwoods, or down in San Antonio, or in the airport when I'm not on the Wi-Fi, or in Brownsville, I keep seeing 5G, and I keep getting the loading icon. And I'm not really impressed with the 5G anywhere that I go. So, Doug, is 5G faster than 4G?
According to Ookla, it's 15 to 20% faster, but there is no 5G, right? So, I mean, there's no such thing as 5G.
No, there's no spoon. I think you're confused about that quote.
There is a piece of spectrum that they've all named 5G, but it's exactly the same technology as 4G. And so they've just divided their network into two pieces. And the reason in some places it's faster, it depends how many people are on each network.
So it's the same technology you're saying, but also
yes,
they did densification. Is densification both part of 4G and 5G?
Yeah, at this point there's maybe 5% different technology-wise between the two. They've introduced some really minor things. Now they're talking about finally introducing a few more of them, but they haven't done it yet. So, and they're not spending any money right now. They're not investing in those. All the big wireless companies stopped spending money last July. So I mean, they're not spending anything. So,
and yet they keep taking subs. Kim, what's up?
Nothing. I was just coughing. But I was like, this is the dumbest conversation that we're having. Are we really talking about 5G versus 4G? I mean, let's be honest. We've had some dumb conversations on here, but this is not are we really even talking? Because 5G is a myth. I agree. It says it on this little phone of mine, but really, Chris, isn't this connect this, not maybe connect this phone to 5G one day?
Doug wrote a post on it.
She got very sour when you let her balloons go to waste. I'm just
I know. I'm the negative Nelly today.
It is deserved. Yeah. Okay. Kim, T-Mobile apparently is all over SiFi now. The network, we've all seen SiFi announce city after city. They're turning people on in a few places, including Kenosha now. And T-Mobile looks like they're riding all of the SiFi networks, it seems like, at this point.
Are you
Yeah, well,
can I just make an obvious statement? How many SiFi networks actually have customers on them? So what does that mean if they're riding these SiFi networks? They might be announced on the SiFi networks, but are they in Fullerton? I mean, I don't know what SiFi networks are really live. I haven't been updated on that. But I mean, I think saying riding or planning to ride is a totally different statement. But kudos to T-Mobile for what they are doing, because T-Mobile's making a big splash in this industry. But what I think is going to happen is I think they're going to get attacked pretty hardcore by a lot of these incumbents as they go into these markets.
This is what I wanted to round the show out with, is trying to figure out kind of what's going on here, because I think having T-Mobile in the network is really going to supercharge SiFi in ways that I think we've all felt like it's been, more press release than investment. But I got to think that having T-Mobile on board is a major boost for it. We saw, and the next thing that we're going to talk about is Brightspeed getting $3.7 billion.
Okay.
It just seems like, I mean, I kind of felt like we're going to see more consolidation and less investment, but there's still money pouring in.
Yeah, but okay, Sean, first of all, I do think it's fiber to the press release, but thank you for that comment. I do love that terminology, but yes, but it's only still a press release until they have customers that are on T-Mobile on the SiFi networks. I mean, yes, I think it gives a boost, but I don't think it really changes anything until they have customers.
Well, I think they're starting to get customers. I mean, that's the Kenosha, they're turning on customers. So that for me was interesting. But let's see what Doug wants to say. You want to weigh in on that?
Yeah. Well, the last time I looked, which was recently, they had 3 places that were actually under construction. So they are finally building some. They've also canceled out of about a half a dozen cities. So,
we talked before about how T-Mobile has a habit of sort of starting something and then backing away. T-Mobile is buying Metronet. They are going all in on some open access here. I think it's pretty interesting, and I'm interested that Kim, your first reaction is one of, I feel like, reminding us as to how it's not super available, that SiFi is not built out of whole places. Rather than I'm curious about, like, doesn't this show open access is about to get new life? We're going to see these builds. And can you imagine if T-Mobile was a partner in all these California builds? I got to think that would be exciting for them.
I think it's great that we're seeing this, but I think this really goes back to the question of what is open access, because in a lot of these markets, they have anchor tenants for a long time. I mean, I don't know on the SiFi, I can't speak to some of these markets because I haven't researched them, but having a anchor tenant for 3 years and then like slowly allowing providers on is not the open access that I like to see. But I want to comment on what Doug's saying of some of these places where people are building. I think what a lot of people did in the past couple of years is almost put a land grab. So they issued a press release to say they were building there to stop from other people building in those areas, because they wanted to almost do a land grab versus actually building immediately in those areas. And I think some of those, I think it's backfiring in some of these cases right now. But personal opinion over here, Mr. Christopher Mitchell.
I should have worked with Ryan, who's in our comments often, to steal Travis's letterhead and do a press release long ago about their builds to certain areas of St. Paul. Travis, do you think you should have done more press releases over the years?
No, honestly, I think it just confuses people because your average citizen doesn't understand the amount of effort it takes to build these networks. And so if you make a big, bold statement and you don't show up for 3 years, I think it really hurts your reputation.
But you're seeing it now. That's why I wanted to go to you. You are seeing, we saw press releases in a bunch of suburbs around Minneapolis, and we're seeing the investment now, right?
There have been some permits pulled, I'll tell you that. But when a company says, "Hey, we're going to build Kenosha, Wisconsin," it's got to be a 3 to 5 year process to actually do it. I think the citizens of Kenosha think they're going to be able to turn on tomorrow. And then that's where the disconnect in some of these things are. Plus, with these open access networks, Kim, I guess I don't understand. Like in Kenosha, is there even another ISP there that'll use the network, or is this open access concept really open access for one entity?
Alexis, are you nearby? Can you just report live from there for our next show?
Reporting live from Kenosha. Hello, it's Alexis. I don't actually know anything about on the ground in Kenosha, but I do know that it is a populated area, and I know that they probably do have a pretty, big user base, and I would be shocked that they, it's Metro Milwaukee, in between Metro Milwaukee and Chicago, and it's also vacation land for all of Chicagoland, so that's got to be a big market. I would be shocked that if they're
a big market, but do you think there's any ISPs outside of the cable company and the legacy CLEC that are operating there?
No, I think it's them.
Yeah, so when we say open access, is it really open access if all you have is one provider on it?
That's the point, right? People consider it open access because they might eventually open it up to different providers. And I mean, in SiFi's defense, when they've announced it, they've always had more than one. But okay. I can't. Yeah,
I have no idea. I'm just
right. Well, and this. Travis, you've asked the question many times back in our history, talking about open access, which we have done on many occasions. You've generally asked, why would an ISP want to do this? SiFi, for 5 years or more, has wanted to sign up multiple ISPs and not generally been able to achieve that goal, right? I mean, this is a fundamental challenge, and that's where, for me, T-Mobile jumping on it makes it a little bit more exciting if, as Kim notes, there's actual competition. Because here's the dynamic is that you start off one of these networks, you go to 1,000 homes, and you have maybe one ISP. Who wants to compete? Nobody. How do you go to more homes without proving the model, right? Utopia made it work. Everyone's like, Utopia is great now, but no one wants to replicate the early years. And I mean, you are doing it in several other places, but we're talking about hundreds of thousands of people. With T-Mobile, I feel like they could jump on more networks and make more public entities interested in making an investment if they knew that they were working with T-Mobile. And as much as I love the small ISPs that have made open access work, they don't provide the same kind of certainty to a local elected official that the network is going to really work out and they want to put their name on it or things like that, I'm assuming.
Yeah, but why are you building your own network? I mean, at least for a community, why are you building your own network if you're just letting a large provider on it, right? I think that's the beauty of having small providers on your network, because for us here at Utopia, some of the beauty is you're keeping your money local, right? So the X Mission, who is our largest provider on our network, is the oldest ISP in the state of Utah. Well, they've said publicly that they might not be in business today if they didn't have an open access network to run on. So I think that there's another argument to your argument of a bigger provider adds more security. They might add more security, but then you have to get into the nitty gritty of why are you really doing this?
Yeah, no, those are very good points. I mean,
Now, SiFi always said they have at least 3 ISPs, but I've never even heard who they are. I mean, I don't know. So.
Right, like Gigabit Now has been on several of them. Ting was on one, but we haven't seen them reappear.
Right, Ting
was on Fullerton, and we've never seen him anywhere else, to my knowledge. So I'm not sure. Sean asks about a couple of others. Alexis, you spend a lot of time around Illinois. Just let us know if you want to do some live reporting from these different places.
So I have been to Rockford. I have not been there for several years. The last time I was there, I ate at a Shake Shack. That's all I got.
Yeah.
I do love a good shake. I'm with Alexa. I do love a good Shake Shack. I mean, just to say that. Go ahead.
I mean, I just like ordering food where I don't have to do the dishes or any of the prep. So like, I'm good. I'm pretty easy in that way. So that pretty much wraps up, I think, SiFi and T-Mobile, and it really gets into the open access stuff. But it brings us to this question about investment. And I was interested to see Brightspeed. I think, Doug, maybe you're going to tell me what I suspect, which is that like this is an announcement that they have access to $3.7 billion, and probably they're never really going to build $3.7 billion worth of network. But have you looked into this?
No, what this is, it finally formalized their funding. They bought all these properties from Lumen, and they came in with $1 billion, and they really wanted to raise the rest. This is them finally raising the rest of it. They fully intend to spend it. They're overbuilding their own, their incumbent telephone. Remember, they bought properties in 20 states. So this is to build fiber in a lot of those areas. They're going to build with this money. They're going to build the county seats in the towns, and they're going to use some of this money for matching for BEAD. They say they're going to chase BEAD real hard. So I think they'll spend it. Yeah.
Well, I think that's what Travis is saying, and answers one of the questions that Travis also asks, which is the question of who's going to go after the money. Well, likely them.
Yeah.
I've talked to Brightspeed, and I mean, like, some of the people I've talked to have confirmed that they are going after the BEAD money when I've talked to them.
Yeah. Yep.
But they make sense to go after it because they have adjacent.
Yeah.
They have adjacent.
Well, not adjacent. They have the network. These are going to be overlashed onto their own copper.
Well, right, that's what I mean. They're like the perfect candidate to take this.
They are.
Absolutely.
They are.
Well, because they're the ILEC in a lot of these places too.
Yes,
right?
They are the ILEC. Yes.
Yeah, and then the problem is do they have problems with the copper retirement programs as they go after some of this BEAD money too? Because that's a whole different beast for them as well.
For people who aren't tracking, what we're saying is that so CenturyLink was the third largest telephone company, and CenturyLink kind of still exists, but like CenturyLink split into Brightspeed, which was a lot of the fiber assets in like 20 different markets. I'm sorry, a lot of the copper assets in like 20 different markets, and Lumen, which was like a lot of the business assets and enterprise assets, and I think some of the fiber assets in better markets. Doug, is that more or less right?
No, they didn't split. This is an outright sale to Brightspeed. They sold those properties. So
okay, is CenturyLink? Does CenturyLink exist anywhere still? Because
they're like in 16 or 18 states still. Yeah.
Okay.
They're completely in the West. They're in Denver, Seattle, all sorts of places.
No, but isn't that Lumen? Like, this is where I'm so confused.
Lumen is CenturyLink is the telephone company. Lumen is the parent.
Okay.
Do we think that Chris doesn't even know what his stock, where like the stock he owns is? I mean, come on.
What stock does he own? I'm just starting to get very curious.
Obviously.
So they also are level 3 to blow your mind completely.
Oh, and what drives me a little bit nuts is people changing their name. So the reason I'm confused is I felt like all this stuff happened kind of at the same time, and it looked to me, and it's still the branding is confusing because there's a ton of stuff that is still CenturyLink, even though it's all Lumen now.
They also have a different name for their fiber product. They have at least 4 brand names.
Yeah. So I'm on Quantum, and it's
Right.
been nice. Also, we have Lumen for our office, and it has been awful. The fiber was okay, but dealing with them on the phone numbers has been a disaster. It is so confusing, and nothing ever works. And I'll tell you that, like, my only reservation in buying Lumen stock was every interaction I've had with them. You don't interact with one person. That person has to call a person that calls a person that calls a person that calls a person. And no one has any idea what's going on at any point. It is amazing. Okay.
Okay, I just have to say, Kim, that might have been dumber than the 4G conversation.
No, but like I'm going to defend that. Like, I feel like a lot of people who are listening are going to be like, "Wow, Chris is dumber than I thought." Well, yes, I am. but 100%, it is really confusing when Lumen changes their name in some areas and not in other areas. And I'm just like, and at the same time, there's sort of like the fiber's going here and the copper's going here.
I have a really
clearly.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Doug.
Well, they're clearly trying to walk away from the CenturyLink name, is what they're doing. So, yeah.
Okay. Alexis?
I was just going to say, I have a really pedantic and kind of confounding challenge that comes out of these mergers and consolidations and different rebranding is the doing business as name and FCC registration numbers and or any single number with the state. It's really hard to untangle that on the other side, in particular, from a research standpoint, when we don't have licenses for the whole entire country's FCC data. So not only there is a tie to like these things being very confusing. And I've had the same experience with AT&T and different versions of which AT&T I'm supposed to be calling when I know that there's squirrel chew 100 feet down the line because I'm looking at the squirrel eat it and they send a text to my house. I get it. Yeah. But you know, that ecosystem goes all the way down to like we're trying to make guesses on performance data and tying those, you know, the IP back to the proper parent company is a challenge.
Well, you're going to hate this, but a lot of their companies are still places like Mountain Bell of Colorado. They're all still there. They all still exist. So that's who actually owns the network. Yes.
So in answer to Ruben's question, yes, I've been trying to transition our phones to Travis for the past year. The problem is that I've spent a lot of that time on the road, and when I have a bunch of work to be done, working on our phone lines has been has been deprioritized. So we are elevating Lumen's stupid stock price rather than saving money and moving to Travis, just because it turns out to be pretty difficult to transition these things. And if you're not prepared, you end up losing a bunch of stuff along the way, because I don't know if we mentioned this, but Lumen systems are so bad. You really have to document everything and keep track of it yourself. You can't trust them to get anything right.
I heard that Travis wouldn't serve you until you pay him all the chicken wings. That's just what I heard. So.
Yeah, but he's gone with this new technique to being gone all the time. So, you know, it seems like an expensive way to avoid chicken wings, but, you know.
No. It's an expensive way to get your Lumen stock to go up. I mean, if that was the strategy.
Has anyone else noticed we've talked a lot about Lumen today? The host keeps bringing them up, trying to jack that stock up even more.
Because that one listener we have is really going to make that difference at Lumen stock.
I was going to say, Chris said something like, "Oh yeah, now our whole audience knows that I'm dumber than they think I am." But you know, Chris, you said, you know, welcome our one fan. So I think, you know, the two of us here, we knew it already.
Well, yeah, no.
The Brightspeed 3.7 billion. The other thing I wanted to make sure people got a sense of is that the situation is a lot of people have DSL from Brightspeed, or they have some other thing, but they don't do the DSL. But Brightspeed is going to be putting up fiber to connect a lot of them. And yes, it makes sense to have bought the copper in order to very rapidly deploy fiber, because there's no cheaper way really than being able to go out and use a pole position you already have and just get out there and do it. Right, Doug?
Yeah, they're just going to wrap it around the copper. You know, back to Alexa's point, they'll have no problem decommissioning copper because these properties were so terrible that the DSL didn't work anyway. These are really bad properties.
No, but there
Terrible.
will be challenges. There's always some number of people who want their phone lines, and so part of this will be that Brightspeed will likely be telling people, we're bringing out fiber. You're not going to be able to take the copper service. Now, historically, that's been a problem for a variety of reasons. One is the copper service works after big storms, whereas in telecommunications, nothing works after storms, not wireless, not fiber. Like if you're out in California or a lot of other places, you get a few hours of wireless service and then because the FCC didn't want to upset the cable or didn't want to upset the wireless companies and require on-site backup. So Travis can tell me why I'm wrong about that in a second. But there's also a lot of other services require that copper service. There's the burglary systems and some of the other systems that deal with people that have accessibility challenges. I did just hear from someone at over at Public Knowledge, where Harold Feld and the team at Public Knowledge have really worked in the public interest to make sure that these copper networks are not decommissioned, totally screwing over people, but making sure there is a process to decommission networks that make sure people are still served who need it. But apparently there is new technology that will finally, we've heard this claim before, but that will finally be able to be attached at the home that will allow those legacy systems to work on the new fiber optic system. So there is some progress there, perhaps.
And there are IP solutions for all of those things. You just have to spend a little money for new gear. So, yeah.
So
yes.
we need to talk about Ruben and Ryan talking about that. We don't know how to, that we have at least 3 people on the chat, but we only say we have 1 fan. Guys, I'm in marketing. We don't do math very well. So just letting you know.
No, it's we don't want to puff out our chest too much about our massive following, some of whom will admit it in public while we're around.
Only Kim's there, I found out, though. Yeah, just to be clear. Yeah.
Any other topics we want to touch on in our not 100th episode?
I can't wait for the 100th episode, though. What am I going to have to do next time? Now I have balloons. Like, now I have to one-up my own game because you screwed this up, Chris.
Fireworks.
Can you turn the balloon around so we can see the 100?
Okay, let's see. We have a 0, a 0.
Oh, sweet! You did.
Well, you are in marketing. I love it.
You should get 1 more 0, and then for the 4 of us, we'll have 3 zeros and a 1.
Well, don't you have an announcement though? Because I brought up my Ruben mug.
I have my Ruben tumbler. Look, it says
real close.
Ask me about Ruben. Oh, where's my thing? On this one, and then on the back it says this mug is awesome.
It's so great.
I need to know, Ruben, can you link the store where I can buy the tumbler? Because Kim tried to steal my mug when she was here. So.
I do want to say that that it has been wonderful. I think we're on the order. It's like 3 years. I don't know if I'm assuming it's been on the order of 3 years since we did the first episode. I seem to remember it was around the summer or fall when we originally launched it. And I really appreciate all the people who came on, Travis for joining us and giving people a reason to watch. And then eventually having Kim and Doug on and bringing people on. It's been a good time.
Well, don't.
I just want to say that I would like a Ryan mug too. So.
Hey, don't tell Mitchell this, Doug, Kim, Alexis, but you know what? He is pretty darn good at doing this show. So but just because he gets so cocky, and I mean, I got to deal with it, because I'm close. So just we'll keep it on the DL. He's probably the best in the industry that I've seen.
We've talked before about the height of that bar.
I think
we can all do better.
When we just both of us.
Oh, idea! Ruben and Ryan together on a mug. Hey, the fans.
By the way, October 30th, 2020. So that was our first episode.
Wow.
So,
wow.
You both.
We've been
to this. I mean, you're like, if you don't come, I'm never going to talk to you again. You have to watch the show. And so that's why I'm here.
Can you, for people who aren't aware, can you share how you've watched the show in many occasions?
Oh yeah, this is my favorite trick. And for those of you that are, diehard telecom people, it's the best if you watch it on a Monday morning when you really don't want to be bothered, and you just increase the size, and it looks like you're on a Zoom call and people are yelling at you about something, but it's just you hanging out with your friends watching Connect This. So
Yeah.
my favorite way to watch. And then I scream back I have arguments with you guys after you've already argued it. So, it's.
Yeah. We argue with him too. Yeah. Okay.
We assume that you normally win those, right?
Well done, everyone. Mr. Mitchell, are you in town for a while or what?
I am heading, actually going to hang out with Alexis. So I was going to ask Alexis to do a little, take some photos of Kenosha when you're heading up north on Monday. But we are heading up to Waters Meet in the wonderful Upper Peninsula of Michigan, which in this case is like 3 miles from northern central Wisconsin, to do a travel broadband boot camp with Lockview Desert tribe up there. And that's going to be Tuesday through Thursday next week. So actually, Travis, Matt, and Sarah are coming into town. They'll be here Sunday night, and then we're driving up, and then they're going to come back, and we'll be around a little bit on Friday. So maybe we can find an excuse to grab lunch on Friday or something.
Yep. Nope. I'm around if you guys are here.
Sweet. And so anyone else who wants to know Matt and Sarah's travel habits, happy to share those on an open channel at any moment.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
Out for the world to hear.
I don't know. I don't want to end the show. I want to keep going. Rye, on the other hand, wants to end the show because he has an important meeting with Doug and me pretty soon. So I do want to say thank you all for bearing with me. I feel like you all do deserve better, and we are hopefully we're gonna find some way of honoring this wonderful show in the next episode, which will be sometime after Lumen Craters, and I'll be wearing ripped clothes probably. So things are gonna take a real downturn after I stop living high on the hog.
So just to give you some financial advice, you're supposed to sell high. Not buy high, sell low.
See, I'm in the Travis camp. I don't want to pay taxes, so I'm never going to sell it.
Mm-hmm. Just buy and hold. Let your heirs deal with it. Yeah, that's my theory. Not my problem anymore. Yeah.
Well, we're all going to die in the climate wars anyway, so there's no point.
Yeah, no, I have to say that the whole hot all the time thing, I did it for 2 days, and I'm not looking forward to 20 years from now when that is more common. So, well, everyone, Alexis has brought us down and ruined the show, so we're going to close it out there. Thank you for joining us, Alexis. Sean, I hope that you are not listening and you are working on your next wonderful, in-depth researched piece, but thank you for coming on the show. Travis, look forward to finding a time to get together soon and not get you chicken wings.
Please.
Kim, I hope that those balloons are able to retain their loft until we can properly honor them. And I feel
this is the second time. This is the second time in 2 weeks that I bought balloons that went to waste. First were for Bob's birthday when I was in charge of the balloons, and now this time. I'm really done with balloons. I feel like it's just not my good luck charm over here.
And
they're beautiful.
They are beautiful. And also just say that I love that Ruben's just finding a way of building a brand through our show. So Ruben, we do want to get you
already have a brand, and we're just learning that,
Right, that's true too. Ruben, we want to get you on the next show, so let's figure out how to do it. And we're gonna bring on some other guests. We'll probably see if we can get Alexis back again. And we'll have Doug on as well. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, as always.
This has been a fairly normal episode of Connect This.